Going back to back. Hey, hey, going back to back. Hey y'all. Welcome to Shade in the City. I'm your girl Treese. And as I told y'all, it's a double header today. So we are getting into season 1, episode 31. This is Wednesday's episode. April. I don't know why I still want to say March so bad. I just wanted to be Pisces season still so bad. But no, this is April 9th episode of Beyond the Gates. So if you guys have not already, all of my BTG Shade Squad, please make sure y'all hit that like button. And for all of our new viewers who are not already subscribed, please go ahead and do so. All right. So yeah, y'all. You know what? I feel like every time we don't get a dose of DNA, and I think I told y'all last recap that this was gonna happen, but now that I rewatched it again, I feel like we get punished. Like it's like a lashing, like the next episode, and we get so much. You know what I mean? It's real saturated. I don't know, y'all let me know your thoughts. But let's get into this episode of Beyond the Gates, and let's get shady, y'all. We start off at the Garland Memorial Hospital. Andre is there filming the nurses, and they're not really interested in being filmed for his Tubi documentary. Okay. Ted rolls up and they notice that he's filming. And so, all the nurses walk off from the station. So Andre's starting to question, well, whether he's the right person for the project. And he wants to know, why they're running from him when before they were running to him. And I said, I want to run to you. Ooh, ooh. Boy, do I want to run to Andre. Okay. And so, Ted is like, look, they're probably concerned with what they can or cannot say. And he compares this project to one that he did in the, I guess, Serengeti with the lions, and how he had to be patient to get his shot. And basically, how I understood it, Ted said, find your lion. Tell me if y'all differ, okay? And he starts recording Shanice talking to the nurses about some struggles that they were having with particular patients. And so then Ted, we see him come back later, and he checks on him and asks if, he's found his lion. And he's like, well, no, but you could help me. You could say, help me. And he's like, oh, no. Because we all know how Ted feel. Oh, no, I'm off to see Nicole, okay? He's off to see Nicole. It's like off to see the wizard. He's going, okay, down that brick road. So, and then I thought it was really cute. Andre says, well, tell Aunt Nicole to make room on a mantle for another award. I may travel light, but it was really cute. It was really cute. And, Ted is just proud of his confidence, right? So I loved this scene. I told y'all last recap, I was so here for the family, beautiful Black family of it all, seeing our sisters work together. It was just, I loved it. I loved everything about the scene. So we see Chelsea. She comes over to give Samantha her flowers, literally, right? And so Smitty and Martin are running off to brunch, and Samantha is thanking her for putting her in the spotlight, and Chelsea shows her the proofs of the looks from the night before, and she asks if she's like, well, do you see how hard it is to be a model? So Samantha is like, well, here we go, is that why you quit? And Chelsea tells her how she's happy not to have to get up for fittings and aerobics, and looks forward to putting her all into her project with Kat. So Samantha is, we see her later kind of critiquing the photos, and Chelsea explains that, she's always going to be more judgmental of herself. And I can absolutely understand that. Even when the other people won't notice. Samantha asks how, well, how did you get through it? And Chelsea tells her that, you just got to finesse it. And it, gives her tips on, just makeup and lighting. It was just really cute. It was a really cute sister moment. I loved it. So Samantha asked her again, "Are you sure you won't be missing modeling?" I'm sorry, y'all. I like Samantha, but I said this last recap because I had already watched this once. It's gonna get on your nerves. Gonna get on your nerves, okay? Um, maybe it didn't get on y'all's, but it got on mine. I'm gonna be honest. So Chelsea tells her that she'll miss some of the people and walking the runway, but is hoping that she'll get her thrill from being a designer, just get it in a different way. Chelsea gives Samantha the advice that her mother gave her about the clothes. You just have to remember that the clothes are the art, and you as the model are just the canvas. And then Kat shares. Why do I say Kat? Forgive me, Chelsea. Chelsea shares that one of her friends had an eating disorder. Samantha tells her that if she didn't have her mother, that could have been her. They talk about how every Dupree, I love this moment too. And they talk about, so what it was, Samantha broke it down and talks about how, they're like elephants. And she said female elephants teach the other female elephants how to be mothers. And so she said, and that's like the Dupree women, where they look to the older Dupree women to pass down that knowledge. And I loved everything. I said, you better go, Samantha. Okay. And so Chelsea lets her know that, my door is always open to you. And then that's when Samantha drops the BOMB on her and lets her know that, hey, I want to be a model and I want you to manage me. Drops mic. Okay. Now, Nicole is in her office and she finds the camera that Kat had put in there. And so Nicole apparently had told her to take the camera out of the office and she didn't. So Kat walks in and she's, Nicole is going at her and chastising her for, messing with Eva. Kat apologizes for her lapse in judgment. And Nicole says, look, you've been having a lot of those. And I said, ooh. And, she said, this little apology you're trying to give is really not enough. And she tells Kat, I don't even know recognize who you're turning into. I said, oh, I know that had to hurt. So she's like, I don't understand why you insist on spying on Eva. Kat makes it known she doesn't like her and she doesn't trust her. Nicole asks her, sweetie, do I need to be worried about you? Like real talk, as a therapist, do I need to be concerned about you? And then she said, okay, she cleaned it up. She said, look, I'm not psychoanalyzing you. However, it is giving weird. It is giving a little obsession. Okay. So she tells her that, she loves her and she can't be replaced. She asks her to leave Eva alone, and Kat leaves and tells her, that she should, before she leaves, she tells her she can go online and see all the excitement from, from the show. And then, of course, as she's leaving, she crosses paths with Eva's and they don't say a word to each other, but, if looks could unalive. Okay. So then Mona goes to see Laura, who's with I got his name, Dr. Flannery. Shout out to me. Okay. He tells her, although she's healed from her first injury, he reveals that suddenly she had a complication. And so Dr. Flannery says that it's a result of high potassium in her system. But when they tested her again, it was back to normal. Surprise, surprise. So he tells her she has an infection. And Laura's like, I feel fine. He said he believes that this probably happened after her last operation, and then things got worse after her cardiac arrest. So Mona and her like, cardiac arrest, she ain't never had no heart issues. What's going on? And he tells her that, look, I believe that what happened with the spike in potassium caused it. However, I can't say that because your levels were down the next day, and we all know why. So, Laura wants to know, well, how much longer do I got to be here? And he's like, for the unforeseeable future. I was like, well, damn, so much for giving a girl hope and a reason to want to fight. Shit. So Martin and Smitty, they're on their date, reminiscing on how they met. Martin admits that, life gets busy and, this was I literally have very little for them. They tend to neglect what matters most. They talk about how the kids are growing up and how time is flying by. Tomas is out with Kat and she's telling him about the success after their show. Kat says she's going to have to work more and we'll have less time to spend with him. And, and so she's like, and he's like, okay, well, we got to get our time in now. And so she's like, well, I want to see you next week. And so she says that it's her birthday coming up, and she's hopeful that, her mom is still planning for something for her, even though she's a little annoyed with her. And then, she asks if he'll come to the party, but tells him that, everyone that you have run into, plus the women, and I don't know who's worse, but they'll all be there. But he says, of course he'll come. And she says, well, good, because that'll give her an excuse to leave early. And I said, oh, well, isn't that cute? Even though I already told y'all, I don't see it for Tomas. I don't. Especially not after I seen him. I don't know. He too friendly. He too friendly. All right, y'all. Here is I can't even call her the HBIC. We're gonna call her the CBIC, crazy in charge, because we know the head is Anita, right? But then we see Leslie, Dana, Sherry, Anna at the nurse's station, snooping around in Laura's records. Shanice catches her and asks her, well, what are you doing? Who are you? But assumes, oh, you just must be new. And so Shanice asks, well, no, but for real, who are you? Like, who are you? And she says, my name is Lulu Linhart. And I was transferred a couple days ago from Providence, and said she was the OP nurse for Laura, and she was just checking on their patient. Now, I'm going to tell y'all, and this is probably TMI. This is a funny story. I laughed when she said the character's name was Lulu and she had this country accent, because I'll just say, I have been Lulu LaRue from New Orleans for my boo. Okay. So I was like, not Lulu, but no, I just thought that was funny. Anyway. So she knows, she's asking about Laura's condition, and Shanice tells her, she has an infection. She's gonna be there a little longer. And so, she said, well, I'll make sure I do my best to nurse her back to health. So Shanice asked, well, hold on, when did you start again? And then Lulu said she started a few months ago, but she had been working night shifts. So tell me if I mess something up or if they mess something up, okay? Because that's why I wanted to go back and rewatch it a second time to make sure, because live, I can't stop it and run it back. Now, she said she had transferred a couple of days from Providence, but then at the end of this scene says that she transferred a few months ago. Why did Shanice not catch that? Or did I miss something? That's what y'all here for. Y'all drop down in the comments. Dialogue. That's, what I'm saying? So anyway, Chelsea, she can't believe that, Samantha's interested after everything she's, explained to her and telling her about the girl with eating disorder. But she ends up giving her all the tips unknowingly, and so Chelsea tries to convince her that your dad's ain't gonna go for this, okay? And Samantha's like, I'm willing to fight for it. However, Chelsea is like, you know what? I don't want to break your spirit. So whatever they say, whatever your parents say, that'll determine your future in modeling. And I said, this is the same girl that wanted to be done, but I love the way the conversation she had with Kat and how Kat spun it on her. I absolutely love it. So then we see Dr. Flannery back at Garland. He's asking Ashley about a mistake that was made on a patient's chart. She, sees Andre filming it, and she starts freaking out and tells him you'll delete the footage if you care about me. And Andre's like, no, this is about trust. And Ashley thinks that, the footage makes her look incompetent, which in my opinion, it kind of did. I mean, she took accountability, but it did. And Andre asked her about the error, and Ashley talks about how, she's supposed to be better than mediocre. And that's the expectation of her job. Derek walks off the elevator, and Andre is asking her about a patient story, which she's like, well, we already did that. So why are we doing this again? And so she starts talking about, Derek and his need to save the world, and how she knows eventually he would end up in the hospital, and she gets emotional. Y'all, I was so not here for it. Um, and then Derek comes to hold her and say it'll be okay, and I would never stop you from doing your job, even though I know it's long and tiresome. And you know, yeah, y'all already told me I don't have to do this, but it's a part of the show. Some people might actually want to know what happened, right? Even though some of us may not care. All right. All right. Tomas runs into Eva at Offrey's and asks her why she looks so down. Eva explains she's upset about her job is about to end with Nicole. Tomas reminds her that, it was a temporary job. You knew that. And she feels like, the job gave her a sense of belonging. So Eva asks him, she's like, okay, I'm gonna stop complaining. And she moves on to like, what, how's your day going? Right. So he says that he's there to get something for one of his clients. He plans to deliver bad news after giving it to him. And obviously he'll have a mouthful of cake. So he can't really, express his frustration or whatever. She asked him if he, taught Kat that trick. And he was like, no, I don't think I have. She's like, well, don't, because next time Kat comes for me, I'm going to shove a piece of cake down her throat. And I said, ooh, okay, Eva. So then we see Tyrell. He's at home stressing because now these kids done went and made memes of him. Samantha tells him don't worry about it, and then she goes on about sharing her dreams of wanting to become a model. Tyrell wants her to be realistic and tells her that their fathers are never going to go for this. He's like, you can't even date. How you gonna be somebody model? So Samantha tells him that she expects him to help her. So then Martin and Smitty return home from brunch and they want to, they're suspect because they're like, why is the house so clean? What's going on? Like everything. Like when your kids get too quiet, something's going on. You know what I'm saying? So then Smitty asks Tyrell, what's up? Why are you so quiet? And so Tyrell gets up and tells him, oh, well, Samantha has been covering for him. And he tells Martin he needs to talk about it. So Martin wants to know why, or Smitty wants to know why Tyrell wants to talk to Martin alone. He knows. Yeah, and so basically he clocks it and he's like, oh, so y'all trying to divide and conquer. And he asks Samantha what's really going on. And that's when Samantha tells him that she found her passion and she wants to model and nothing's going to stop her. Okay. Chelsea confronts Kat. They're down. She meets her down in Uptown, and Chelsea confronts Kat about, whose idea was it to put Samantha on the runway. And she tells her, now Samantha want me to be your damn manager. So Chelsea feels like Kat, should be freaking out that her niece wants to do this. And Kat says, I know you got a lot on your plate, Chelsea, but you do have the knowledge. I mean, you do have your grievances. And so, who better than to protect her and design a safe career for Samantha? And I said, I love that damn Cat. Even when Chelsea be trying to come at her, she just be like, nope, nope. I need her to give Eva that same energy. So then we see Nicole. She's telling Ted the news about Laura. So Eva will be there longer. Ted questions, well, what will happen once Laura does return? And Nicole says she doesn't know how to be fair to both Laura and Eva. And so Ted suggests that Eva could go work as a hairstylist at the country club. Meanwhile, Eva, of course, is listening behind the door because that's what she good for. And you could tell she's, disheartened to hear this. Then Leslie notices that Eva is upset when she comes home and she tells her the conversation she overheard between Ted and Nicole. And Leslie tells her that she deserves her rightful place. And so Eva says that, I also heard them talking about Laura and lets her know that, she has an infection. And so Leslie tells her, well, that's great news. That gives you a little wiggle room. And Eva is like, no, that's weird. And so Eva's like, please tell me you didn't have something to do with this. And so, Leslie laughs and she's like, girl, how could I give Laura an infection? So yeah, and then you can see obviously the wheels turning in Eva's head. And yeah, that was the end of episode 31, y'all. So yes, drop down in the comments, let me know what you thought. The only thing I thought was interesting is what's so funny, and I think I said this before, it might have been episode 29. I don't understand why they wouldn't just make, especially since Chelsea didn't want to do modeling. And I get it, maybe because they're like, one Dupree woman learns from the generation above her. But I feel like she could also learn from Danny. Why wouldn't Danny step into the role as her manager? I think that because she wants to do it. She has the time. I don't know. Does anybody else feel that way? Like I said, let me know how you feel in the comments. But if you guys haven't already, please make sure you hit that like button. Make sure that you guys comment. Make sure that you subscribe. And make sure you hit that notification bell. And make sure you're following us on all the platforms. That's the TikTok, the Blue Sky, the IG, and the Facebook. And I will catch you guys tomorrow for another recap of Beyond the Gates. Have a good night. Bye-bye.